Homesteader family, welcome back to the journey. Welcome back to this edition of the Sunday Monday vlog. Welcome to today's Homesteader and Anatolian Shepherd Butts. And who knows what else is up. Anyhow, it was a busy week. I'm about a minute behind going live. That's because I had to make coffee. I just got done eating. The dogs are still over there drinking and doing their thing. And just been rushing trying to get things done. So I had to get some coffee so I can have something warm to warm me up. Because it's another chilly night tonight. Got the fire going. You can see the fire over there going in the wood stove. This past week, what I got accomplished, I cleaned around the shed. I got a bunch of trash hauled out from the homestead. I finished up most of the 30 acres the Homesteader family was on. Now that the shed building is finally gone, I have some more trash that was underneath the shed I couldn't get to. Joey, it's going good. Things are making progress. Things are happening. So there was trash underneath their shed. I've got to get that cleaned out. I'll take a bag over probably tomorrow, get that finished. Like I said, I got around my shed, cleaned up some, piled stuff away from the shed so I can get my shed in condition to start unloading it. And then once it's unloaded, then I'm going to hire somebody to come and move the shed up to the house site area. Then as you see in the picture for this video, that's the fence line along Gregory Lane. So I've been working on fencing. So I had the fencing on the inside and then the brush pile on the outside. So that way no hogs, coyotes, neighbor dogs and stuff like that can dig underneath the fence, because I'm having issues with dogs digging underneath the fence coming into the animal pen. So that will stop animals from that, because you got a good 4 feet thick of branches and that's coming down. If they figure a way in, then I'll take care of it at that point. But my goal now is I'm not splitting the pen in half like I was originally going to do. Still trying to figure out what I'm going to do, because I don't know. I just don't have the money to do a whole pen, but I feel I just need to do the whole pen. And if I can go all the way down Gregory Lane, that will stop a lot of my headaches. So that's what I'm working on now, is doing the fencing from where the animals are now all the way down to today's Homesteader Lane, where I put that gate in. And then I'll figure out exactly how much fencing I need. Now that I know I'm not going to move the animals by December 1st, I have till spring now. So that's several more months, several $100s each month I can put towards more fencing. And hopefully by then have it done. Not 100%, I've got to measure everything. So that's what I'm going to be doing this upcoming week. So I'm going to work on fencing. I'm going to start clearing a bunch of trees. I have, from my fencing, I'm coming back probably 30, 40 feet. I'm clear cutting all the trees to the ground. The reason I'm doing that is so I don't have any trees, or very limited trees, by my fencing. So if a tree comes over, it doesn't take the fencing out. Also, from the fence over to the woods, that will give a nice strip of pasture all the way around the homestead. So we all know I need a lot more grass and pastures for the animals. The seed that I put out last year did come up. It's just not as good as it should be because of all the trees. So by clearing some of the trees, that will work on that. And then as the animals clear out the small trees, I'll start clipping them down and hauling them to the fence pile and go from there. I got the quorum court meeting tomorrow. And then on top of that, the government wants to check out this alien again and take more blood samples and everything else. So Tuesday, if I disappear, you know I'm in a government lab. But I will be in government lab. I'll be at the VA for the blood draws, urinalysis, and all that type of stuff that they're doing once a year now that I'm back under doctors. So they're going to find out what's wrong with me. Probably we'll never find that out. That's just a given. But that will happen Tuesday. And then, of course, like I said, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, all the way through next week, I'm just going to be working on fencing. If I decide to take a break from the fencing, which I'm adamantly trying to get things done, I've been waking up 7 o'clock in the morning, trying to get over there, get stuff done. We got some nice cool weather. I know we do have rain coming in soon, so I'm not sure exactly what I'm going to get done. But if I end up taking a break from the fencing, then I'm going to be going and start clearing out the shed. I know I've talked about that a million times. But who wants to deal with rat, mouse, poop, and squirrel, and gopher, and chipmunks, and everything else? Nobody does. So I'm been delaying it as much as I can. However, if I get the shed cleaned out, then I can get the shed moved. If the shed gets moved, then it's up at the house site. If it's at the house site, then I can start saving up money to get a battery bank and a generator. And then once I have power, I'll be able to move into the shed. It'd be a little bit rougher than being here in the building. However, that would get me to the homestead. So that is my goal and my plan right now, is hopefully by fall of next year maybe, is to get the shed in place, try to have money by then. Now, if the house in Marshall sells, if either 10 or 20 acres of the homestead sell that I have on the market now, I decided I'm not going to do 25. I know I talked about doing that, cutting off just 5 acres from the 30 that they were on down to 25. But then I decided I'm just going to go ahead and take another 5. So I have it as 2 10-acre parcels or 1 20-acre parcel listed. So that way I have the 100 acres. And then, of course, Steve's on his 5+ acres. So then I'm still below 100 acres. But just to give a little more buffer zone, and I know I need more pasture. So since Steve's taken up part of the land I was going to use for pasture, now I'm rerouting, and I'll be able to run the animals the opposite direction and be able to gain that 5+ acres back, plus the extra 5 that I was taking anyhow. Besides that, that's pretty much it. Went out to the Marshall house. Nothing's changed out there. I still gotta weed eat. I still gotta mow. I still gotta rake leaves, clean all that up. I still have some trash over there to haul off. Still had the trash in the horse trailer from the Homesteader family, the trash can of diapers and all that garbage that they left. I just don't want to spend the money right now. So depending on how things go is where I'm going to go with things. Trash sitting in my trailer, I'm not using the trailer, so that's not hurting. Just sitting there for now, and then that way I'm not spending money on dump fees when I don't need to be spending money right now. Besides that, that's pretty much it for this week. And then for the topic tonight, now is the time. And what I'm talking about with now is the time is what I've talked about sometimes throughout my different videos. And that is how that 9 to 5, that wonderful 9 to 5 I always talk about. And people stick with that 9 to 5. And Steve had talked to me. He saw some type of survey, study, something. I didn't see it. But I've heard about it over the years, and there's always been things on social media that in a lifetime, you sleep so many years of your life, you go to work so many years of your life, you do this, you do that. Well, in the survey that Steve saw, it said in your lifetime, after you clear out, go in the bathroom, eating, sleeping, working your 9 to 5, everything else, the typical person, if you're lucky to live to 75, 80, whatever, you have 5 years to do what you want. That's not a lot of time. And a lot of people right now are struggling money-wise. A lot of people are struggling time-wise. And there's a lot of people, I've seen 6 or 7, maybe even 8. Yeah, probably about 8 now, because I just saw another one tonight. People on Facebook that are sitting here saying, my heart's broken, I can't believe you're gone. Or I lost this person, or they were way too young to go. And I'm seeing these people, 20s, 30s, 40s, 60s, passing away. And people are like, they went too young. Well, in that survey that Steve told me about, well, they didn't make it to 75. So those 5 years of doing whatever they want to do is gone. And that's the problem. And that's based off retiring at like 65, 70, whatever. Well, now everybody is starting to work till ever. Do they ever get those 5 years? Let alone when you get up in older age, you don't have the strength you used to have. You don't have the strong bones you used to have, the energy, or anything else. So now is the time to be enjoying life, not waiting to see if you make it far enough to finally do it. Let alone, like I just said, you got people in their 60s and 70s, 80s, some even in their 90s still working because they can't make it. They can't do enough. Now you're going to think, well, you say all this, but you don't give us any options of how to go about living life with time now. There's a very simple way that you can do it. It's going to be difficult, but it depends on what you're willing to sacrifice. If you're willing to walk away from some luxuries. I had talked about with Steve about it, and I was saying, if you look at South America, you look at like Mexico, Venezuela, all those, Nicaragua, you look at Africa, you look at Australia, Asia, I mean, anywhere around the planet, basically, you have different tribes that are still out there to today, still living completely off grid, no part of society, and things like that. They live lives. They may not have all the modern medicines or televisions or things like that, but they live their life. They have their time. Their time isn't given to somebody else. When you're working these 9-to-5 jobs, if you drive an hour to work and work an 8-hour day and you drive an hour back home, you just gave that business 10 hours of your life. And people don't look at their life as currency. They're chasing the currency. They're chasing the dollar. But they're not being paid for that hour drive in, that hour drive home. They're not being paid for all the wear and tear on the vehicle and the tires and oil changes. They're not being paid for the work clothes and everything else that goes into working that 9-to-5 job. And this is where I've talked a million times over that if you work for yourself, if you work on your homestead, every hour, every minute you put into yourself, you accumulate all of that 100%. There's no hour goes to this job, hour goes to that job, taxes coming out of your efforts and stuff like that. It's all going to you. So what I would say, if you want to live your life now, if you want to be using your time right now for yourself, and you don't want to work that 9-to-5 job, this is my recommendation. One cannot buy time. You have that completely right, Andreas. You cannot buy time. And the thing is, you look at everybody out there on like Facebook, all these posts I've been seeing about people dying 20s, 30s, 40s, 60s. They can't get no more. They probably didn't accomplish what they wanted to accomplish. So this is idea because I've had a lot of people asking me how they can homestead without a bunch of money. How they can do it without going into debt like me because they don't want to go into debt. How they can live a semi-civilized life and not just be jungle people. Well, this is my thought. Most of you have houses in the city, most of you have equity. Your house has gone up more than what you owe on your house. Depending on your financial situation, if you don't want to go into debt, if you don't want to struggle too bad, but if you want to try to break that chain, then I would look at what your home equity is, what you owe left on the loan, what you would have after closing, realtor fees, taxes, all that type of stuff, and then look for property, an acre, 5 acres, 10 acres. Now, of course, you're going to be limited to where you can live because you're going to have to find places like Fremont County. I don't even know why I said Fremont County. You don't want to find places like Fremont County, Colorado, where you can't camp on your own land. So you don't want to buy somewhere like there. But like Searcy County, Arkansas, where there's no building code, you can camp on your land, you can lay in a tent, you can lay in a hammock, you can be in an RV, or you can build a house, or you can have a trailer brought in. If you have $50,000 left over from your home equity after selling a house, then you want to look for land around $10,000 to $15,000, which is very feasible. There's plenty of properties I've seen that you can buy for $10,000 to $15,000. It's going to be raw land. Now, you take the remaining money and you get a shed or a trailer or a modular, depending on how much money you have left over. You put it on that land. You're no longer paying rent. You're no longer paying a mortgage. It's yours. All you have to do is pay property taxes. And you're going to say, next, sold my house, got rid of the job. Now I'm living on this land. How do I afford food and utilities and all that stuff? Well, this is where the downgrade comes in. Instead of a 9-to-5 job, you get a part-time job. And that part-time job is what you live on. So you just gained half of your life back by going from a full-time job down to a part-time job. Now, you may not be able to go to 5-star restaurants all the time. You may not be able to go take family vacations all the time. You may not be able to buy the newest iPhone or the newest car or the next gadget or toy that they want to take money from you. Because that money is what ties your time. The more stuff you buy, the more stuff you need money for, the more time you lose in your life. So if you find a piece of land and you're not paying that mortgage, well, you don't need a job to pay a mortgage that isn't there. If you get a shed, modular home, RV, whatever, to live in, no rent payment, no mortgage, you own it. Then the only thing that you're not going to get away from is power, water, stuff breaking down, food, cell phone, stuff like that. So that's where you're still going to need part-time job. The other half of your time, you can start working on your homestead. You can start working on your next project. You can start working on coming up with your own business because you want to gain more and more time. So you've sold your house, you don't have mortgage, you buy a small piece of land like Searcy County, Arkansas, where you don't have building permit restrictions. You can be semi-free. We'll never be free like we used to be. But then you get chickens. So you get some chickens with your part-time job. Your part-time job pays the money to get the chickens. Well, then you put in a little garden. Your garden, you get some veggies for you. You get some veggies for your chickens. So that starts cutting down on your chicken bill, your chicken feed bill. Sold your house and live in a shed. Yeah, well, I'm working on that. if you listen from the beginning, Boomer, my goal is I'm working on getting to the shed. Um, but it goes back to my goal video, step by step by step. So if you sell your place and get land, that's your first step. Then you get some type of structure building on it to live in. That's your next step. Then you start your utilities. That's your next step. So on and so forth as you climb. Like I said, if you get chickens, you're getting eggs from the chickens. After a couple years and having babies, you got to have rooster. For those of you that don't know, you have to have roosters to multiply your chickens. Then you start having meat birds. So then you got eggs, you've got meat. You get the garden going, that feeds you, that also helps feed the chickens. Then you get rabbits. Then you take the rabbit carcasses and chicken carcasses and you boil them to make socks and broths, and the carcasses go to chickens. The chickens will devour that. That will give the chickens the protein, the fats, the nutrients that they need for better eggs, higher production, keep them healthy, and just snowballs. With the rabbits, you feed from the garden, and so on and so forth. And it just goes and goes and goes. Then you can get up to cattle and things like that. So that full-time job that you're at, that you're spending your own money to get to the job, you're spending your own money to get back home, that's money you're not making. But when you're on your homestead and you're feeding your animals from your own land, that's not costing you anything. You're making currency at that point. As you make enough of it, like I said, you're not going to have the luxurious life doing homesteading, but it's going to be a free life. You're not giving the time that you have to somebody else. There's nothing better for me than like right now when I'm over at the homestead working on fencing all day and I take a couple of the dogs and they get to run around and I go down and open the bottom gate and bring the goats out and the llama out and they're just running around by me. Then they sit there and lay down where I'm working on the fencing and chew their cud and just be able to be out there in nature. And then come the evening, the sun sets and you see all the beautiful colors. And if I was out there later, I'd be looking at the stars. But being able to just sit down in the middle of the day in the woods and just listen to quietness, peacefulness, and not the constant hustling and bustling of the city and the toxic fumes and the air pollution and everything else that goes with it. That's time that I'm cherishing, time that I'm enjoying, time that I'm not one of those in the city. So, like I've said many, many times over the years, many videos, I highly encourage you, whether it's homesteading or whatever you want to do, find a way to do what makes you happy. Find a way to refresh your soul. Find a way to do it now, because the time is now. You don't know if you're the next person that somebody writes about on Facebook. You don't know if you're the next obituary in the newspaper. You don't know how much time you have left. You only know you have the time now. The time is now. So get to it. Get doing something. Start thinking. We only live so long, if we even get lucky enough to live that long. It's a great way to live. And for those of you that hate on my holiday, yep, I'm decorated for Christmas. Got the tree and everything. Yes, I know it's November, but you know what? People for Halloween put up stuff before October, so I don't want to hear it. And 2 nights ago, I decided to finally come out at midnight, and I decorated the outside of the building. Not a lot. I didn't have many lights left, but just to give me something to come home to. So like I've said many of times, it's all about you and what makes you happy, what makes your heart beat true. And for me, coming home to seeing Christmas lights, coming home to the dogs listening to Christmas music, and coming home and building a nice, beautiful fire is what makes me happy. This is the use of my time. This is the time that I'm doing now. I'm trying to be festive, Boomer. You know me. Me and Christmas, we get along. But truly, if you're not taking the time for yourself, even if you stick with the 9-to-5 job, even if you decide to stay in the city, you decide to spend your whole life aiming for money and things and not what makes you happy, then do yourself a favor and at least take 5-minute breaks here, 5-minute breaks there, and just walk out and listen to your favorite song if you're a music person. Or get some crayons and paper and draw yourself a picture if you like being an artist. If you like nature, walk out to your local park. Even like New York City. One of the great things about when I used to go to New York City was Central Park. I love sitting out in Central Park. In all of that city, there's still a little bit of nature. You can find it here and there, but find your inner peace. Find where you're happy. And like I said, also, like with my great-grandparents, you work your whole life, and all you have are a few materialistic things left. And as you get older, like my great-grandparents, the only real materialistic thing you ever really need is a home. And if you look at all families, it's always your heart is where the home is. Hey, Scott, I'm doing well. Hope you're doing well too. But if you think about it, the money you saved up when you were, say, 13, 14 years old because you wanted this t-shirt that meant so much to you. Go to your closet right now. Do you still have that t-shirt? Probably not. That money you worked so hard for and spent so much of your life saving up for your first car, if you didn't come from a rich family and have a car given to you. I had to buy my own vehicles. Go out in the garage. Is your car still there? No, it's gone. Almost everything we spend all our time and effort into, we no longer have several decades later. So you go back and think about all the generations, generation, going farther and farther back in your family history and throughout all of human history. We're on a planet created for free. We have limited time, but yet every generation burns all the time they have for things that never matter except the home. So that's why I said if you have the home equity or if you want to do the debt thing like I do, I know there's a lot of people, I get told all the time, don't be in debt and all that stuff. I don't listen to it because guess what? Debt doesn't follow you either. But I highly recommend if you want to get out of the system, that's the best way to do it. Get a small piece of land, go down to a part-time job so then you're gaining half of your life back and work whichever direction you want to go from there. Another thing that you could possibly do, well, you could join a community. I wouldn't want to do that, but I know there are different communities out there. That would be the only other option to just totally break out the system, but then you're tied to a community that requires you to do this at this time and this at that time. Max, quit licking. But like rent, you know, everybody's paying rent right now, and rent just goes out the door. If you don't go to work, you don't have the money, you don't have hey, stop. If you don't have the money to pay your rent, you got nowhere to live. Your home is gone. That's the time. And that's what they tie you in, is especially right now. This is reminding me of 2008, because if you look, people can't even afford to buy houses right now. So everybody's going back to rent, and all the landlords are raising rent. And it's just a vicious cycle that reminds me of 2008, when everybody got tied into paying rent, and all those years went by of paying rent and they had nothing to show for it. It's gone. That's another reason why I highly recommend you buy a small piece of land. My 120 acres out here, I'm going to sell some of it, but it's $154 a year. Part-time job for 2 days a year would pay the $154 property tax for a year. So if you do the math on your food, your light bill, if you reduce how much power you use, if you reduce how much water you use, if you reduce buying all the nonsense stuff that you don't need, then you would have less need for money. And with less need for money, you're not spending your time at a job. You're spending time going for hikes. You're spending your time with family. How many of you out there, because I know I have a lot of boomers that follow me. So this is actually probably more directed at boomers than it is at any other age. But all the other ages should understand the boomer mentality and thought process and reality of the situation. And that is, how many of you boomers out there wish you could have spent your time throughout your life doing more things that you wanted to do? How many of you wanted to spend more time with family than what you were able to do? How many of you have lost family, friends, acquaintances that have passed on, that you didn't get the chance to spend more time with? How many of you would have loved to spend more time? And for the younger generation, you got to look and realize those boomers that you talk to, if you talk to them, because I know a lot of you don't care about listening to elders, which I got lucky when I lived down in Florida. I got to spend a lot of time with my great-grandparents. So I got to hear a lot of stories and things like that. But time is the thing that everybody has regrets about. Everybody says you don't want to have regrets, or they say they have no regrets. Everybody has regrets, because if you lay down in bed at night and you think to yourself, this situation could have been this, or this situation could be that, that's a regret right there, because you're thinking about what you missed out on. And that's what I'm seeing right now on Facebook, is all the regrets. And what people are not comprehending, which drives me nuts, is they keep writing these Facebook posts that, I wish I would have spent more time with this person. Well, are they doing anything right now, moving forward, until their next post of their next friend or family member passing on, rectifying it? No. Everybody stays in the same rut, same ditch, same alley, same holler, whatever you want to call it. And they never climb out of it. They continue on that straight path, doing the same stuff. You would think you would change it. You would think they want to change it, but nobody ever changes it. Why? Most people are afraid of change. Most people cannot do what I do, where packed up all my stuff overnight, made 34 trips to Arkansas, packed up all my stuff at my house that I finally got running water and power and was comfortable, had my bedroom with my big picturesque windows looking out at the mountains, to move into a camper trailer taking care of my grandfather. From when I lived in Colorado Springs, and I lost everything, became homeless, and figured out how to get 2.5 acres for $2,000 by selling my materialistic stuff to be able to have a piece of land to at least put a tent on. You've got to make choices. You've got to make decisions. You've got to make sacrifices to get you where you want to go. If I didn't make the sacrifices I've made by starting over throughout this journey, and a lot of my journey that you've never seen, since my journey for you guys only started in 2016. Throughout life, we all make decisions. We all make choices. If we don't decide to change our choices and make better decisions, then we stay on that same path. That's the only thing my great-grandfather was wrong when he says change is 90% bad, 10% good. Because if you change for the better, then it's 90% good, 10% bad. The time is now. You need to change your thought process. You need to change what you want in life. You need to change wasting your time and giving it away for free. You think you're getting paid, but you're really not. If you have some loved ones, if you have family, you have friends, spend some time with them. They may be on the Facebook post tomorrow. They may not make it till tomorrow. Do you have dogs, Anatolian shepherds, goats, camels, peacocks? Go out there and pet them tomorrow. They can be gone. You could be gone. What would make you happy right now? If you don't do it now, you may never get the opportunity to do it. Not completely true. What's not completely true, Boomer? Tell me what's not completely true. But overall, if there's something you want to do, you just need to go out and do it. Don't wait for it. Don't be one of those people. If it's supposed to be, it will be. Because if a bus hits you tomorrow, then I'm going to say, well, it must have been meant to be, because that's how they thought. If you turned your head and looked and stepped forward so you didn't get hit by a bus, well, there you go. You say, my time going to work is easy. Your time going to work is easy. I don't know what you mean by that. Okay, you retracted it. I don't know what you're saying, Boomer. I'll have to wait for it to pop back up. But like I'm going to hold true until Boomer... See, this is what happens with boomers. They don't know how to type on the computer. My time driving to work is wasted. In my mind, it is wasted, Boomer. I mean, everybody's going to look at everything how they look at it. Driving to work, if you spend an hour driving to work, most people are not getting paid. I listen to audiobooks on the drive. That's awesome, Scott. Yes, I mean, yes, that hour driving to work, you can listen to audiobooks, you can have somebody ride with you, like my mom and Paul from Colorado that moved to Kansas. He drove her to work every day, picked her up from work every day, spent all that extra money on gas every day because he wanted that time with her. The thing is, all that driving back and forth, all that money that they spent, she was working to make more money. So is that truly, like, their situation is not like somebody reading or listening to an audiobook. But my thought is, unless you love driving, in my mind, driving to a job is a waste of my life, because I'm not being paid for driving to work. If you're one of the few that get paid from when you leave the house to get to work, then that's awesome. You're getting some compensation. But overall, even if you're getting paid to drive from home to work and from work to home, then you lose part of that money to taxes because they're going to tax that money. Driving is super dangerous. I hate it, and I'm a pilot. Well, don't hit those birds in the sky, Norman, because that could be dangerous. You hit them birds in the sky and you be a crash pad. But like I said, it all depends on how you look at things, and it's all in the eye of the beholder. We all have our own opinions. We have our own thoughts. For me, I just think it's a waste of time, even if you're one of the lucky few, which 95% of people don't get paid to drive to work and drive home. That's 2 hours of your life, or if it's 10 minutes each way, that's 20 minutes every day times, say, 200 days a year times how many years of your life that you work for that job. You just lost all that time driving. When, in my opinion, instead of driving an hour to work or the 20 minutes a day, I'd rather sit on my porch out at the homestead when I finally can get to the homestead and enjoy that 20 minutes every day with a cup of coffee, looking at my camels walking over the hills and enjoying nature. That's my thought, and that's my perspective on that topic. Like I said, everybody has their own perspective and topic. But that's like right now. Just like I say, people are wasting their time driving back and forth to work. I'm wasting my time right now. I'm wasting my life right now in this restaurant. Why? Because I could be over at the homestead. But because I'm not willing to give up my luxury and I'm not willing to rough it yet again, then that's why I'm wasting my time. Just like people that want to keep their jobs and live in New York City and pay $1 million a year in property tax, well, that's what they want. So we all make our decisions that work for us. And where we go from that is just a perspective. All this is me giving my perspective to everybody to make them think that if they feel they're stuck in a circumstance and not willing to give up, that they're going to be in that same circumstance. Same with me. I'm not happy living in the restaurant because I'd rather spend my life living on the homestead. But I'm not willing to sacrifice. So I have to deal with being not happy when I could be happy, but then by losing luxuries, I'm not happy there either. So that's where my perspective is on all that. Let me see real quick. Good point. Have had multiple near mid-air collisions, including with the 747. Well, Norman, you're not supposed to fall asleep when you pilot. That might be a problem. Hope you do not fly out of Atlanta. Chicago, great. How do you get money? Me. Right. So, yeah, I mean, people have to make money. People have to go to work. I'm just saying there's a way that people can get part of their time back if they went the homesteading way. Now, if I was a recording artist channel, I would tell people to make music, become a singer, get better, and make money that way. If I was a guitarist, I would tell people to buy a good guitar and make better music. If I was a realtor, I would say get into real estate. You can get one of your houses cheaper and then get everybody to pay off your mortgage by selling houses. There's all different ways of doing it. I'm just going off of my way, which is homesteading, which I'm still not there. If I had a full-time job and I was making money, I could do a lot more stuff on the homestead. If I how I want to word this. if I was to get a full-time job and work and make money to be able to do things I want to do on the homestead, I would lose my time. If you look at a lot of people that have full-time jobs that try to homestead, they're not able to homestead because they have to wake up earlier, feed the animals, go to work, all the day's gone. They come home at night, feed the animals, do whatever, and that's it. Then they only have Saturday and Sunday. It's all in the perspective if you want money over time or you want time over money. And the big thing is, if you look at the poor class always wish they have money because they got plenty of time. And you look at the rich people, they have plenty of money, but they have no time. So it's a trade-off on what you want. And what I'm saying is, civilizations overseas, around the world, that make no money, live in the jungles, they use their time. They live off of time, and it's their schedule, their timing. If they don't go out and fish, if they don't go out and hunt, they starve. If they don't collect firewood, they freeze. If they don't build a house, they have no shelter. Used to commute 3 hours a day, now work from home. Glad he's talking about this. Makes me thankful. Yep. Well, I'm glad, like I said, I just throw out my perspectives. And like I've said a bunch of times too, if anybody wants to ever comment a topic they want me to go into for the next Sunday, Monday vlog or several Sunday, Monday vlogs from now, throw out a topic. I just go off of topics that I think sound right. I don't do any pre-planning. I have nothing but my coffee here. So I don't have papers. I don't have my Boomer dry erase board or nothing like that to have bullet points on what I want to cover. This is all just coming out my head. So if there's certain topics and conversations you want me to cover, feel free to comment down below and I'll do one on that. But because I've seen all these posts on Facebook this past week, like I said, I think I'm up to 8 now. I just think that's something I've needed to hammer out. I've talked about it in different videos, but just to make one video, hitting the nail on the head over and over to try to get people to realize what they can be missing out on. And like I said, I'm not saying sell what you have and buy a small piece of land and homestead. If homesteading's not for you, if homesteading's not going to make you happy, do not homestead. If living in a city is what makes you happy, then that's what you need to do. What I'm saying is all these people continuously, and I've seen several people that will make a post every 3 to 5 years because they are on my Facebook and I constantly see this people posting. But they say this year, I wish I would have spent more time with this person. And then 5 years later, they put the next post up. Oh, I wish I spent so much time with this person. And then another 5 years later, they're going to write the same post yet again. And they're not correcting that. That doesn't mean you have to sell a house. That doesn't mean you have to homestead to correct that situation. What I'm saying is time. The time we have, the time others have is very, very limited. If there's a book you've been wanting to read, make the time to read that book. If you love somebody, make the time to make that phone call. If there's somebody that you're friends with, make that time to be friends with. If there's a museum you want to go to, or a country you want to go to, or an opera you want to go to, concert, a play, a movie, Disney World, Disneyland, Universal Studios, wherever your heart desires that little piece of happiness that brings happiness to you, do it. For me, like I said, it's November. I've got my Christmas lights. I got my Christmas music. I have my animals. I have my nature. That's what makes me happy. If I die tomorrow, I have what I wanted, minus living in the restaurant. I never made it to the homestead. If you want an orange, go buy yourself an orange. If you want a pizza, go buy yourself a pizza. Whatever makes you happy. The time is the point of this whole video. The time is now, because now is the only time you have. You're not guaranteed any time in the future. Do what makes you happy. Do what brings positivity to you. Try to be a positive influence on others. Like I said with my great-grandparents, the thing that means the most is the home. Your heart is where the home is. That's the only thing you should focus on. The next thing is focusing on what people think when you're gone. Were you one that were negative all the time and being mean to people? Were you bullying people? Were you making people sad? Were you name calling? Were you the guy that smiled at everybody? Were you the guy or gal that started a conversation with everybody you came across? Were you the person that gave hugs or handshakes or brightened somebody's day? Were you like Robin Williams that brought relief to a stressful, chaotic world? That's what you need to think about. Your time, what that time shows in the long run. We're just like animals. Millions and billions and trillions of humans have come and gone. Most of them you never know about. Most of them will never be remembered. But in my mind, the time that I can stop like I do and help people change out a tire or give somebody a ride, as everybody saw in Colorado, I kept getting yelled at by people not to give hitchhikers rides. But doing that pay it forward type of mentality, the kindness. If everybody did kind acts every day, multiple times a week, over and over, the world would be a better place. If we all spent more time with loved ones, we would have a lot less regrets. If we did what made us happy, go to that play, buy a homestead, buy a camel, we would be less grumpy. We'd be less sad, less depressed. We would be doing what we enjoy, what life is made to be. On a planet created for free, that's not made to be a slave to work, 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 and chase a dollar that somebody invented. The dollar wasn't natural. It was created. Do something today. The time is now. Find your happiness. Find your home. I hope everybody has a great week. I hope everybody had a previous good week. If you didn't, change it for the better, not the worse. Put up some Christmas lights. Get ready for Santa Claus to come to town. And I hope everybody has a great week. And I'll talk to you guys next week. Let's see. A good topic would be property security. All right, Norma, I'll talk on that maybe next Sunday, Monday vlog. Good night to you, Scott. With that, thank you guys for all the thumbs up, sharing, being part of the journey. Like I said, I'll have the quorum court coming up tomorrow. I'll have that video either tomorrow night or Tuesday. I'll do a couple short videos this week. I'm going to do one on what I've been doing on the fencing around my shed and stuff like that, so you guys can see, because we all know I'm not wasting my time editing videos because I really don't like wasting my time, and I don't like technology. But I will get you guys some update stuff on what I have been up to. With that, like always, live happy, live free as well as you can be. Live happy, live free. That's the only way to be. I forgot my own slogan. With that, have a great night. I'll talk to you guys later. Thank you.